Hello, today's January 28th, 2024, and I am back in another National Geographic magazine that my father collected over the years. This one's from April 1971, and while browsing through here, I found an article on Maui. And I thought that would be appropriate after all the disaster that happened in Maui earlier this year and still going on, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but I just wanted to get into what old Maui looks like. So, Where Old Hawaii Still Lives, Maui by Kenneth F. Weaver, assistant editor. Photographs by Gordon W. Gahan. Open your eyes, beware of the fiery... Whoa! Open your eyes, beware of the fiery car. That's very strange opening line there. It is a voice from the past. This is a warning sign where my road crosses the tracks of the Lahaina, Kanapali, and Pacific railroads on the island of Maui. You can translate the Hawaiian words, akahali ke kahai. I don't know if I'm probably butchering that more formally, but the essence of their meaning is that what I've written. This is how old-timers understood them in the days when trains 30 cars long moved sugar cane in endless quantities to the pioneer mill down the road. The sugar trains are gone and replaced by the mammoth trucks, but another and fancier fire car, all red and black and shining brass, chuffs along in front of me. The authentic reconstruction of a 19th century locomotive put into service just a year ago. It tugs carriages of laughing passengers 6 miles from a Lahaina historic port of whalers and missionaries to Kanapali Beach, Maui's Gold Coast of resort hotels. Like a crossing sign, it too evokes the past. Now the Puffer Belly's melancholy whistle echoes from Keka, a sacred black rock that juts out to the sea by where the hotel cottage. There are long days before the days of the hotels or sugar mills or whalers and missionaries. The souls of Maui folk came to leap into the spirit world. Here, I'm going to go back a page and do the picture. That looks like an aerial photograph for sure. And then there's this caption over here. House of the Sun. Erosion ravaged Haleakala. Crater crowns Maui's second largest of Hawaii's islands. From the volcano's heights, the legend tells of the demigod Maui snared the sun to show its journey and thus gave mankind more daylight hours. Crystalline air of the 10,023-foot summit helps observatories of Science City on the far ridge track satellites and probe space. Glowering war god Ku, that's war god Ku, carved by a Maui sculptor, Sam Ka'ai, I'm totally butchering the words, reflects the Islanders' renewed interest in their heritage. Let me do a couple of these other pictures before getting back to the article. Cigar-smoking grandmother. The pineapple harvester came from the Philippines in 1965. Maui's melting pot society, Polynesian forebears of the taro farmer above, has settled the uninhabited Hawaiian Islands by about AD 750. Europeans began to arrive after Captain James Cook discovered the archipelago in 1778. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the need for workers in the sugar and pineapple industries attracted immigrants from China, Japan, Portugal, and the Philippines. Plumeria blossoms enhance the beauty of a Maui schoolgirl of pure Filipino blood. So that's the Filipino schoolgirl. There's the farmer. And here's the cigar-smoking grandmother. Now back to the article. On Maui, the past refuses to die. In much of Hawaii, the onrushing present is relentlessly obliterating the past. The Taro Pass, the grass shack give way to subdivision, the freeway, the high-rise. Fewer and fewer Hawaiians remember the traditions of old chants, the old skills. The child of the land is fading, says my friend Sam Ka'ai. But on Maui, the past is fighting back. And that is what, for me, makes Maui the most fascinating of the Hawaiian Islands. To be sure, Maui has its share of tropical enchantment, and would be pleasant enough for this alone. Red hibiscus and white and yellow plumera bloom around our sea cottage at Kanapali. Palms rustle in the cooling trade winds that funnel through the channels between West Maui and Molokai. Beyond the crescent beach and the curling surf, my wife and I can follow the white sails against the cloud-topped slopes of Lanai 10 miles away, or watch the spectacle of a Pacific sunset behind Kika's jagged silhouette. On the Mauka side, everyone in Hawaii says Mauka when he means inland. Beyond closed-croft golf fairways and bright stretches of sugarcane, a rainbow often arches across the mile-high mountains of the West Maui. Mist and clouds play among the peaks, and precipitous ravines, shrouded in green, testify to eons of massive rainfall. Not far away, Maui is only 48 by 26 miles at the outside. I found other treats, lush rain forest abloom with ginger and heliconia, towering waterfalls, a slumbering volcano. Maui has all this indeed, but it has much more, a sense of smell and time. As I roamed the island, which in fact a double island connected by narrow isthmus, I kept hearing voices of the past. The old and the new come together most gracefully on Maui's western end at Lahaina, once the royal capital of the Hawaiian Islands, and a busy port, now a charming but sleepy town that lives by sugar, pineapples, and tourists. Sugar affects Lahaina quite visibly, and the high stack of the pioneer mill dominates the town. The rampant fields of cane all but squeeze the slender community into the sea. When the fields are put to the torch before harvest, the slightly acrid smell of burning cane trash often pervades the air. The morning as I breakfasted in the open-air old whaler's grog shop in the Pioneer Inn, a bit of Lahaina snow cane ash drifted in the breeze and settled on my papaya. Lahaina wins landmark status. The Pioneer Inn, with its double veranda and its old-fashioned appointments and its original house rules still posted. Women is not allowed in your room. If you burn your bed, you are going out. Only on Sunday you can sleep all day. Gives a delightful but deceptive air of antiquity to the town. Actually, the inn has operated only since 1901. Across Front Street from the Pioneer Inn, I found Tim Mitchell in the offices of the Lahaina Restoration Foundation, a transplant from the mainland. Tim is deeply concerned with the preservation of Lahaina's historical treasures and reconstruction of those that have disappeared. The foundation, which Tim manages, is a nonprofit existing on gifts and grants with strong support from the County of Maui Historic Commission, which strictly controls building styles, heights, and uses foundation, has launched a major restoration plan. Maui has become very popular in the past several years, Tim told me, and the visitors seem to find our exhibits both entertaining and educational. We have a colorful story to tell here. This is where a lot of Hawaii's most tumultuous history took place. In 1962, the National Park Service recognized the significance of Lahaina by designating it a National Historic Landmark long before Captain Cook discovered it in in 1778, what he called the Sandwich Islands. Lahaina was a pleasuring ground for the Ali'i, or chiefs. They sported in its surf with their wave sliding boards. Lahaina was ravaged in the late 18th century during the time when Kamehameha, oh my God, I'm going to totally butcher that one, Kamehameha. I was conquering the island, uniting them into a single kingdom. If we had been here in those days, Tim told me, we could have seen this war fleet, a flotilla platform, double canoes covering the beach for several miles. After the conquest of Kamehameha made Lahaina his temporary headquarters, he lived in a 2-story brick palace on the waterfront, the first Western building on the islands. The Maui Historic Commission plans an archaeological exhibit on that site. In 1819, the most turbulent period of Lahaina's history, in that the year of whaling ships appeared on the roadstead, an anchorage shielding by Maui, Lanai, Molokai, and Kahulawai. The town became a whaling capital, on the Pacific, and it was never to be seen again, never to be the same again. In 1846, the peak year, 429 whale ships anchored off Lahaina, compared to 167 at Honolulu. That same year, records show 1882 grass houses, 59 stone or wooden houses, and 3,000 residents in Lahaina. You can imagine the impact, as many as 1,000 rowdy seamen came ashore at a time, said Tim. Those adventuresome days come to life aboard the 3-masted whaling ship, the I know how to say this one too, Carthaginian, tied up on Lahaina's harbor, scarcely a harpoon throw from the Pioneer Inn. Once a Baltic cargo schooner, the 93-foot Carthaginian was converted to a square rigger with 17 sails for the movie Hawaii. Later, the Restoration Foundation brought her a floating museum of whaling. One afternoon, I went aboard to chat with Don Bell, the skipper, and Eddie Furtado. I found them busy at maintenance, fighting rot. That's the big thing, said Captain Bell. We recently had to do with some redecking and put in new beams. Soon we're going to have to take off all the yards and scrape them. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. We're never finished. I left them scraping rust and went below to see the exhibits. I found myself walking inside the skeleton of a whale. All about me were memorabilia of whales and the sea, harpoons, blubber knives, tying pots, the melting blubber, lanyards, dead-eye casts, logbooks. I sat on the bench of the Carthaginians hold and watched the movie with music of the sailor's hornpipe in the background. The film told of the wild and uproarious days when whalers from New Bedford and Nantucket, New Bedford and Nantucket, that's here. It's got to be another one, because this is a long way to Hawaii from here. Massachusetts, by the way. At Lahaina, the crews for whom there was no god west of the Horn came ashore, lusting for rum and sensuous pleasures of Hawaii. What a place old Lahaina must have been. Zeal for faith curbs zest for vice. Hard on the heels of the whalers arrived Protestant missionaries from New England, bringing the Bible and much needed medical knowledge. I don't know about that. Question that line right there. Tim showed me fascinating reminders of missionary life at the Baldwin House, one of the foundation's restorations. This 2-story whitewashed house on Front Street was for many years the home of Reverend Dwight Baldwin, one of the most prominent of Hawaii's medical missionaries. I marveled at its coral blocks, nearly 2 feet thick, and the graceful hand of hewn ohia beams. In one of the bedrooms among the Baldwin personal effects, I saw that an incongruous item on the bed warmer. One of those New Englanders knew what to expect in the tropics. Inevitable friction developed between vice and virtue. In 1825, Tim said, when the chiefs put a taboo on women visiting the ships, angry seamen from the English whaler Daniel roamed the streets for 3 days, repeatedly threatening the missionaries whom they held responsible for the edict. Violence struck again in 1827 after when the whaler John Palmer fired on the town after a dispute about women coming aboard. The missionary families took refuge in the cellar while cannonballs landed in the mission yard. After the chiefs erected a coral stone fort on the waterfront, each evening sundown, a soldier on the ramparts beat a drum furiously as a warning to seamen to return to their ships. Those who did not were imprisoned in the fort. I saw reconstruction corners of the fort near the Pioneer Inn, but on a prison a couple blocks away, I got a real feel for those troublesome times. In a walled prison compound of Hail Pahao, stuck in iron's house, I saw the cells and shackles that once detained men who had deserted the ships and worked on the Sabbath or offended the community by drunkenness or reckless riding. Let's go back and look at the pictures. So here's this picture, and it says helmet and cloak of feathers, necklace of human hair, and whale tooth hook distinguished the Ala'i nobility in Maui and other Hawaiian islands. And here's a map. I always find the maps very fascinating. Now, I've done a lot of searching on Lahaina on Google Earth in the past few months. I've never been to Hawaii. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but this has been catching my attention a lot. So, soaring heights of ring rain, the clouds borne by westering trade winds clothed Maui's windward slopes with lush rainforest. Of the 39,000 islanders live along the coastal fringes. I feel like checking the maps out to see where boundaries have changed is a very important thing to do. Get these pictures good. Now there's this picture of a man on a surfboard. I almost said a skateboard. And there's this picture of a young woman meditating on the beach. Let's read those captions. Free spirit meditates. Oh, she's nude. Meditates in the nude at sunset on a secluded East Maui beach. To the consternation of many citizens groups, easy living youths have flocked to impromptu communes on Maui's isolated fastnesses, sleeping in rude shelters and eating the island's plentiful fish and fruit. And this one says, slicing the path in the sea. A teenage surfer rides the crest of a six-footer near Hanakauai Point in West Maui, through less challenging than the mountainous breakers of Oahu. Maui's tricky waves still lured surfing buffs. While Europeans reached the island, they found Maui's chiefs frolicking off Lahaina on immense wave sliding boards. Some of them weighed 100 pounds compared to today's 8 to 12 pound boards. And there's the surfer again. Left off right here. Back to the article. Oil discovery ends whaling boom. Despite the problems, Lahaina profited greatly from the whalers, but the prosperity could not last. With oil discoveries in Pennsylvania in 1859, the whaling industry began to wane. Whale oil gave way to kerosene, Whalebone for corsets were replaced by cheaper celluloid and steel. As the Maui Historic Commission has written, they're all gone now. The kings and their counselors, the whaling masters and the harpooners, and the tripod men, the ship chandlers, the grog shopkeepers, seamen's chaplains, and land sharks. Only the whales remain, coming down each mating season to leap and frolic and spout in the roads. The characters of the play are gone, but some of the props for the sets are still there, giving Lahaina an indelible air of history and adventure. With Pete Sanborn of Lahaina's civic leaders, the project manager for AMFAC Inc., developers of the Kanapali Beach Resort. Actually, I do know how to say Kanapali area. I toured the environs of Lahaina. One high-rise above the town, we found Lahaina Luna High School, the oldest west of the Rockies, Pete said. It was founded in 1831 by the missionaries to train Hawaiian teachers. There is a tradition where some students came here from the U.S. West Coast rather than travel east through Indian country. Today, it's the only boarding school operated by the state of Hawaii. Neither teachers nor students were to be found when we visited Lahaina Luna last summer. But we went into one of the original buildings, a simple square coral structure where Restoration Foundation operates a museum. There, Pete showed me a replica of the press that printed the first newspaper west of the Rocky Mountains. It was set up by the missionaries to print textbooks in the Hawaiian language. The attendant of the museum inked the plate, laid down the sheet of paper, and ran off a handbill for me. At Waiiola Congregational Church, we found the graves of missionary families and members of the Ali'i, notably Keopuolani, Sacred Queen of Kamehameha. I'm so butchering these words, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Excuse me. And mother of the two kings who followed them. When we attended the service at Waiiola, where in an earlier building the Reverend Dr. Baldwin used to preach, the sermon was in English, but we sang from Hawaiian hymn books. Hunaya Kamaku Mau, praise God from whom all blessings flow. There is more to Lahaina, of course, than mementos of the past. On a given afternoon, for example, I could go past the town square and sit in the shade of Lahaina's century-old banyan tree. I've seen that online quite a bit. It's still alive after the fires, which is amazing. Which covers 2/3 of an acre. Listening to the chatter of the minas or appraising the display of local artists, I could stroll into the gallery or the collector's shop with an incredible display of oriental treasures in bronze, porcelain, ivory, jade, and silver. I priced some of them $30,000. Excuse me. For an imperial jade bracelet, $3,200. Chow Dynasty bronze vessel, the shape of the Crouching Griffin, $7,000, and for a pair of lapis lazuli table screens. I'm sorry about my throat here. I might stop and then pick it up again. I'm just going to read to the end of this section and then do a part 2. If I could not afford, at least I could spend 25 cents in the ice cream parlor for a sherbet flavored with island fruits, guava, mango, or passion fruit, or savor salmon or pork tofu in Morikawa's tiny restaurant, or visit the studio of Maui's artist Tadashi Soto, whose impressionistic paintings of rock, sea, and shore would have won the international acclaim. At Lahaina Jodo Mission one night, I joined members of the town's Japanese community in the annual Obon festival, which, according to the Buddhist belief, departed spirits come back to visit. Excuse me. I'm going to have to wrap this up and start over after I clear my throat. In the cemetery, lights hung on the air, and the paper lanterns and the flowers decorated each grave of the as families sat communing with their ancestors. In the adjoining temple yards, lights glinted, and the copper roofing of the brand new pagoda. And illuminated the serene face of the 12-foot bronze Buddha. Booths selling food and drink and offering games of chance catered in the throngs inside the temple as I listened to 5 black-robed priests recited passages from the sutra in rapid monotone accompanied by the loud beating of wooden blocks. After the services, members of the congregation carry paint lanterns to the temple, left the temple and moved in a single file around the Buddha. I think I found that Buddha on Google Earth too. It was still standing. It didn't get burned. Then, as I joined the procession, it wound down to the shore and to place lanterns in the water. Soon a long ribbon of softly glowing lights floated on the tide. They symbolized the return of the spirits of the Buddha's paradise. The Jodo priest, the Reverend Gensho Hara, explained. The lantern ceremony ended. Folk dancers in Japanese costume now encircled the central pavilion, their stylized postures and gestures keeping time to the wailing of a flute and offbeat rhythms of the drummer. One of the most passionate believers in preserving the past, and one who has done something about it, is Sam Kai, a native of Maui, wood carver, sculptor, and businessman whose ancestry includes Hawaiian, Chinese, Portuguese, French. My great-grandfather was the seaman from the Azores who jumped ship on Maui, Sam told me. To stem the decline of Hawaiian culture, Sam encourages artisans to take up the old arts and crafts in the shop in Lahaina called Kai Kahanu, the turtle. He sells their work. There he showed me the finest wood carvings I saw in Hawaii of koa and monkey pod lace necklaces of shiny black nuts from the kakui, the state tree of Hawaii, skillfully grooved and faceted handbags of lauhala and leaves of the pandanus tree, exquisite hat bands of pheasant feathers, even scrimshaw the sailors hobby polished the whale teeth delicately, engraved with scenes of the whales and ships. To these, Sam adds, the ethnic arts of some 30 islands in the South Pacific, whence came the first Hawaiian settlers. In his studio, I found Sam working with adzes of his own manufacture, fashioned. Oops. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. From Jeep Springs and GI Maddox, designed to imitate the stone adzes of old. A newly carved image of Ku, the ancient god of war, scowled fiercely at my intrusion. I had always thought that the adze was a crude tool, but in Sam's hands it was capable and amazingly delicate work. It's all in the angle of the blade and handle, he explained. If the angle is correct, the blade bites it just in the right amount. Somewhat disbelieving, I asked to try it, and to my surprise, in a few easy strokes of an undressed mahogany log, left a beautiful, smooth, and even surface. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here for part 1 and come back for part 2. I'll finish this article up. Thanks. Love y'all. Take care.